What's up, guys? Welcome to the Put Me In Coach podcast,
where we go beyond the headlines and deep dive everything NFL.
I'm Ian.
And I'm Andy.
Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much. Man, what's going on? How are you?
What's happening, brother?
Not much, man. Not much. We're ready to. I think this is our first non-animal team that we're doing in this whole breakdown. I'm excited.
It's about time.
Yep.
What team
Dallas
are we doing
Cowboys?
Again? I can't. You're...
The Cowboys jersey on.
I didn't.
I want to give a quick disclaimer on this jersey real quick because I don't want
Sure.
people to get the wrong idea. I'm not a real Cowboys fan. Last year I went down to a game down in Arlington, Texas, with my brother, and they were playing the Rams. They whooped on the Rams in Texas, and we both had some preconceived notions going in about, Cowboys fans get a bad rap, and we just had the time of our lives down there. So. Made some friends, met some amazing people, and I just wanted to kind of shout out the Cowboys fans and Cowboys Nation because I don't know, I really rock with you guys, and I was really pulling for you guys last year if the Lions didn't get it done, and it was a really fun experience going down there. But in terms of the jersey, it's CeeDee Lamb is my favorite player, and Andy can back me up on this. Basically, when CeeDee got drafted, I kind of started this campaign that he was going to be like the next big superstar wide receiver in Dallas. Yeah. And just like in the NFL, like he was just kind of my guy from the beginning. And,
Sure.
Every year he got closer and closer, but I feel like a lot of people just kind of like consistently sort of poo-pooed him a little bit. And we're like, he's not a one. He's not a one. I don't know if you remember that like whole thing, that rant that Richard Sherman went on earlier this year on like Undisputed that went viral where he was like, CeeDee Lamb's not a, he like ranked like Waddle ahead of him and like McLaurin ahead of him. And it's just been a lot of disrespect for CeeDee. And this past year, like, I rocked the jersey to the game, and he's been my favorite player. Besides, my favorite non-Lion. He's just kind of been like my guy.
Sure.
I've rocked with for whatever reason. I always liked him, and I always liked his game. And to see him like explode this past year was like super exciting. To kind of quiet the conversation. Like there is no more conversation. He's top 5. Like you can't debate it. You can argue with the wall as far as I'm concerned. And I always knew this day was coming, and I was kind of on an island for that one for a few years. People being like, "Nah, I don't see it," and like now we're here. So that's why I have the jersey. Again, I just wanted to give Cowboys Nation a shout out because that was it's a great football environment. That stadium's awesome, and the fans are so cool. So that's that.
Yeah, I feel like the Cowboys fans get a lot. The mass media and people as a whole, like the internet, I guess I should say, basically, like I feel like they treat Cowboys fans like what Eagles fans actually are. You know what
true.
I mean? Like it's just like Eagles fans are like actually insufferable. Cowboys fans are just kind of like they're kind of like they're just lovable. I don't know. They're a little lovable to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it's a weird place to be of being like the franchise of franchises for so long, and now just going on this like 30-year drought. I didn't get the impression that everyone gave me that they like think they're better than everybody and they're like delusional. Like they love their team, but they're not.
Yeah.
I had so many conversations with fans, but just about Jerry and Dak and the team, and they're not delusional. They're the same as any other fan base. So I do want to get into last year real quick.
Of course.
Obviously, we'll preface this with the fact that you and I both felt like last season that outside of San Francisco, this was the team in the NFC,
100%.
Despite the fact that we're Lions fans.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched every minute of that Lions Cowboys game, and you guys can. I know here in Metro Detroit, a lot of people say, "Oh, Dan Skipper, he registered as eligible or whatever it was." Yeah, he did, but I don't know. Let's all be honest for a second here. Cowboys completely controlled that game the whole time. You know, we got hot in the second half, and good for us. I think we were a tick below the Cowboys ultimately, and that's kind of how it ended, right? Was close but no cigar. I think they were just like they were a horse. Like they were just a team that you'd get in front of and you just go, shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was
Dominant.
just they would just kind of beat the shit out of you.
Yeah, it was CeeDee Lamb, it was Dak, it was
Yeah.
the pick sixes, it was Micah, it was
Yeah.
the whole shebang of it all was a lot to deal with for teams. And yeah, I mean, same thing when I was down there too. I was repping the Cowboys, but talking to fans, sitting in my section and stuff, and I was like, yeah, me and my brother are Lions fans. We're from Michigan. We like you guys, but we're still pulling for the Lions. And a lot of them were like, oh, it must be so cool to kind of be a Lions fan this year, that they're good and stuff. Like, we don't want to see you guys. And I was like, if I'm being honest with you, like, I love my Lions, but for my
You can
money,
see
this
us.
team's way
Yeah,
better.
you could
Like,
see us. Yeah,
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 like
they could
I
see
think I
us.
think you guys are the team to beat outside of San Francisco, and you
100%.
never know.
100%. And again, it showed. You know what I mean? Like it showed. You had CD have like an all-time game against our very frankly shitty secondary. Like that was the reality of our season. Not to make it too much about Detroit, but like there was gaping holes on that team. If I look at Dallas's roster, there's not like a ton of gaping holes. Not last year at least. I'd argue there's a little bit more now, but not last year. I mean, it was kind of the complete package, man. Even with a loss of Diggs, you still, you got what's his name?
Deron
Remind me of
Bland, a
his
star
name.
is
Deron
born.
Bland. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, fully. It's like next man up, and this guy just becomes, a Pro Bowler.
I think for my money, he might be better. He was a first team All Pro, dude. For my
Was
money,
he an
he
All
might
Pro?
be.
Okay, I was
Yes,
gonna say,
dude.
I wanted
For
to
my
say All
money,
Pro,
he
but I
might
didn't
be
want to be
better than
wrong.
Diggs.
Yeah, he probably is. That's a really good problem to have.
Right. And what's so interesting about last year is, really the only weakness was the run defense, which finished about 18th, which isn't great, but you still had a fifth ranked defense overall, according to most metrics, and your offense was ranked fifth. Um, this team had 9 All Pros last year, including 4 first teamers, which is crazy. Like the talent on this team last season, the dominance on this team of this team last season was amazing. And you go 12-5, you win the division. I felt you were leaps and bounds ahead of Philly. They got you in that first game in Philly, but it went down to the wire. It was kind of a fluky. Remember that Dak got tackled at like the 1 and they lost.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was kind of, whatever. And then they went down to Texas and they got smoked in Jerry World. And it was just like, yeah, this is the better team. Like, you were better than Philly
Yeah.
last year. I thought you were better than everybody except for San Francisco in the NFC. And, what's really interesting about this team, including last season, they're the only team in all of football that's won 12 games the last 3 seasons. Not the Bills, not the Chiefs, not the Packers, not the Lions, not the Niners, not the Ravens. All these teams that we view as like above the Cowboys. None of them have won at least 12 games the past 3 years, just the Cowboys. And it's like, it's really weird how good this team is. And I say it with like that because it's like, because of the playoff flameouts, which we'll get to in a second, it almost feels like this team is like, it's like, oh, they're frauds. They're just not that good. And you start to look at it and you watch them and you're like, are there even like 4 teams better than these guys over the last 3 seasons? Like, I can't even, the Lions maybe in the playoffs last year, but not during the season. I mean, the Chiefs have won the Super Bowls. I mean, I always put the Chiefs number 1, but like they've been right there in the top 5 on defense and offense for the better part of 3 years, and the wins show it.
Yes, they do.
But I do think that there is an interesting component to the wins and how they shake out, right?
Sure.
When you think about the big loss in the early part of the season, it was Week 5 against San Francisco, where they lost 42-10. I mean, they were absolutely demolished. And of course, all the media talk shows, it was like, are we going to bench Dak for Cooper Rush? Is Mike getting fired? A crazy.
That was so fucking stupid.
Right.
So
And then you lose to Philadelphia a few weeks later in a very, very close game that you should have won, but again, you didn't.
Yep.
And then down the stretch, weeks 15 and 16, back-to-back losses to Buffalo and Miami.
Yeah.
And you barely win that Detroit game 20-19. And honestly, you probably would have lost that game had that call not been made. But you were the better
Yep.
team that game, so it was kind of a coin
Totally
flip.
agree. Yep.
Um, but I say all this to say the really interesting thing about it is when you look at the San Francisco loss, the Philadelphia loss, and the Buffalo and the Miami loss, all four of those losses have one thing in common to me, and that is that they are like real football teams.
Yeah.
Um, it
100%.
feels like it's a repetitive story with you, and it was last season. They did lose to
Yes.
Arizona in Week 3, but it was like a fluky, it was just an off game.
Yeah. Those happen. They're going to happen they're going to happen once every year. No matter who you are, no matter how good you are.
Yeah, but the main losses are a blowout at San Francisco, a close loss at Philadelphia, a blowout at Buffalo, a close loss at Miami. And it's like when you take those 4 games into consideration, you start to kind of see where some of these fraudulent perspectives come from. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's an interesting year. It's not it sometimes looks better on the stat sheet than it really is for them. And I think you and I both felt like that kind of was the case in the playoff game, which I don't want to get to, but I have to because it happened and it's relevant going into this year, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It did happen. And yeah. I mean, go ahead. Keep going.
It's just brutal. I mean, no, it's all right. Like you
It's
get
just brutal, dude. It sucks. I mean, not to cut you off. I know I told you to just let you cook, but it does have to be said. Like we just talked about it, right? Like we felt very much. I know I felt, and you and I've touched on it before. Like Detroit and Dallas felt very similar last year. And I think both of us with guns to our heads would say Dallas was truly the better team. And you see that, Detroit made that run to the NFC Championship. There's no reason that Dallas shouldn't have been there. You know what I mean? I think if the chips fall the right way, I mean, you obviously would have had a Detroit Dallas rematch in Jerry World in the playoffs. And I'm as a Lions fan, I'm not convinced we win that game. They were just a really fucking good team. And and it, when you say 9 all pros, when you say, 12 wins, it absolutely feels like it was the year to go get a Super Bowl, right? Like, the Chiefs weren't like some world beaters. They were like kind of bad during the regular season. It felt like it was Ravens all year. It felt like it was like, Ravens Niners. And then there's no doubt in my mind that the Dallas team could have beaten that 49ers team. I mean, you saw what that Detroit did in the first half. Does Dallas collapse in the second half the way they did? Do they have the youth that Detroit has, and the inexperience Detroit has? Like, no, hell no, they don't. So you do wonder. You look at it and you go, wow, there's absolutely a world where if you just go out there and handle business against Green Bay, you have there's a path to a Super Bowl right in front of you. But please tell us more about the Packers
I
game.
think it's just brutal because I think you're totally right.
Yeah.
It felt last year, kind of similar to like Philly the year before, right? Where it was like, oh, go do this. There's nobody else in the NFC that's dominant. Like,
100%,
go do this.
100%,
And it was
yeah.
just like
Yeah.
they just got there but at least, for Philadelphia's credit, they made a run. Like,
Yeah.
yet again, like you guys don't, right? So, of course, like, the backdrop is obviously it's Wildcard weekend. You've won the division, but you don't get the bye. That's okay. Only one team gets a bye. So, but you're in Jerry World. You draw the Packers. Packers were a weird team last year. Obviously, we
Yeah.
know them well. They
Tale of
weren't
two
that
halves.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then they kind of just were all of a sudden. But nobody, including myself, felt like at home against Jordan Love first year as a starter against this Green Bay team. This Green Bay team going against Dan Quinn's defense and the dominance and kind of the bully ball they played, except for against the really good teams, all season was going to win this game. I mean, I didn't feel at any point that Green Bay was going to win this game going into the game, and I'm glad I didn't gamble on it because I would have lost some
Yeah.
money. I would have bet my kidney that they would have won that
Yeah.
game.
Well, in Green Bay had a very easy ending to their season. I think they drew the Panthers, the Vikings, and somebody else
They
fairly.
actually
Maybe
lost
the
to the
Commanders.
Giants too.
They did. Yeah, they lost the Giants and the Bucks. But then I think they drew like literally like the Commanders, the Panthers, and the Vikings. I'm confident about the Panthers and Vikings. not so much on the Commanders, but I know it was another kind of like bottom feeder team. And so just on paper, you're kind of looking at that like, yeah, they're hot, but are they like, they're kind of beating up on the the lottery teams. It's like, they're gonna go into Jerry World and beat up on the Cowboys, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, so the game starts off immediately with a 12-play, 75-yard, 8-minute drive, capped off by an Aaron Jones touchdown. Green Bay takes a 7-0 lead. Already after this first drive, it was concerning how much Aaron Jones looked like prime Emmitt Smith in Jerry World.
Man.
It was like, and I mentioned earlier, I mean, your run defense was kind of the only issue. Like, you could get got on the ground last year. So to see that starting off, it's like a little concerning. You get the ball back, and immediately Dak throws a pick to Jair. This interception isn't really costly because, number one, you had CeeDee Lamb running right up the middle in single coverage. Dak fully misses him and tries this like outgoing route to Brandon Cooks and just gets completely cooked by Jair, right? The problem with this interception is it set Green Bay up inside the 20, right? So then Aaron Jones scores another touchdown and they go up 14-0. Game's not over though, right? It's early. No. We're kind of early in the second, right? It's cool. With 10 minutes to go left in the second quarter, Dallas gets a drive going. They get all the way down to about the 35-yard line. They're in field goal range. Third down, Dak takes a sack instead of throwing the ball away for some reason, and you're out of field goal range. So now you've got a punt, down 14-0. Second quarter's, ticking away. Green Bay gets the ball back again, drives all the way down the field, gets right to the, near the red zone, right? Something that Dallas did all season was they ran this cover zero scheme. Dan Quinn was a huge fan of it, where they would it was like a feast or famine thing, and they would basically bet, we're going to put just a single coverage out there, run a cover zero, and send like all these blitzers in and overwhelm your quarterback with Micah and with these guys, and you're not going to be able to do anything. And it worked a lot. Problem is, Jordan Love reads it, calls an audible, and then throws a skinny post to Dontavian Wicks for a touchdown, 21-0. Dak gets the ball back, right? Down 21, going into the half. It's like, okay, when you and I used to play Madden, right? We had a thing called 21 skunk. If you're up 21-0, the game's over. Next guy gets to play. In football, in real life, it's a little bit different. 21-0 at half with the ball and some time left. You can figure this out.
You can dig yourself
21-7 at half. Okay, we can make this work. It was a bad. I mean, we saw what San Francisco did against us in the NFC Championship, Detroit.
Period.
Problem is, Dak starts driving. He's getting some completions. The offense is getting in rhythm, and he throws a pick six to Darnell Savage. Ball game.
28 zip is almost impossible to climb yourself out of. I don't care who you are, where you're at.
At the pinnacle of all of this, late in the third quarter, essentially, they run like this like almost like tacky, like drag route, like trick. I forgot the name of the route, but it's basically where the tight end drags and then runs a wheel like across. It's just like, it's like old West Coast stuff. And they hit Luke Musgraves for like a wide open touchdown. The game becomes 41-16, and it's over from there. I don't even have the final score in front of me because once it was 41-16, it was over.
Fully.
And it's just a sad way to go out for a team that I think should have won that game, was the better team, and had a really good season. But once again, Dak gets got, and once again, this defense got. And I kind of wonder. I wanted to volley it back to you because I think there's a lot of. Does it feel to you like, in a weird way, this defense is the Dak Prescott of defenses in a way? Does that make sense?
It does. It really does. And it's accurate. I mean, I think it's when you have a team like the Dallas Cowboys, right? You're the New York Yankees, you're the Los Angeles Lakers. You're under constant media supervision, no matter, for good or for bad, right? You're gonna get gassed up when you don't deserve to get gassed up, and you're gonna get completely, bailed out when you need to get bailed out. And I think the thing that gets really frustrating for me, being somebody who's like tapped into the media, watching the narrative happen, blase splee, is that it's always Dak's fault, right? It's, oh, Dak threw 2 pick sixes. Oh, Dak is this. Oh, Dak can't get it done. Dak can't do this. But the guy sneaking out the back door as the cops are arresting the robber number 1 is the defense.
With the flash, the smoke bomb that goes up, and he just drift, or like the bus that crosses, and he's not there anymore 100%. When the bus.
100%. He's walking, he's crawling out the back door like the sneaky little fucker that he is. If you go back, excuse my side profile, I have my notes over here, but if you go back to 2016, so when Dak took over the team, he's played in, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They've had 5 playoff losses, right? And those 5 playoff losses, 2016 against the Packers, the defense lets up 34 points. 2018 against the Rams, the defense lets up 30 points. 2021 against the Niners, they let up 23 points. 22 against the Niners, 19 points. Not so bad, but still, And then 23, obviously, 34 points when you take away Dak's 2 pick sixes. I mean, you're averaging 28 points a game. You're supposed to be top tier defenses. You're talking about like top 10 defenses every one of those years. And we have to hear about these stars on your defense every year. Every year I can refer to at least one. I mean, I've been hearing about Micah Parsons for the last 3 years now about how, it's his year for defensive player of the year. It's his year it should be his year to show up in one of these fucking games, because he's never been found in any of these games.
I was watching the Green Bay film, just to interject real quick, and
go ahead.
I'm watching the tape of this game, to set up for this segment, because I just thought it was relevant to kind of go through that game again, unfortunately.
Sure.
And I'm looking around and I'm like, you ever get to a point where you're watching like a replay of a game and you go, I totally forgot that Michael was healthy in this game. Like, it was almost like he was a healthy scratch. Like, he was a tackling dummy. Like, he did nothing in that game. Nothing. I mean, just
I feel
nothing.
You. That's how I feel about a certain number 97 for the Detroit Football Lions, who was apparently healthy and playing in the NFC Championship game, but I mean, I wouldn't know. But then, you look a little deeper into it, and it's like, just in this last game against the Packers, they allowed 6 of 12 third down conversions. I mean, you have 50% conversion rate on third down. In 2021 against the Niners, 45%. 2018 against the Rams, 45%. 2016 against the Packers, 54%. It's like, what is going on with these defensive game plans in these games? I don't get it. Your rushing yards allowed. You got 87 yards in 2016. You got 273 yards in 2018. And then in this past game, you got 138 yards. This is unacceptable. You're never going to win a game. So you're automatically putting your quarterback in a position where he has to play perfect. He has to play perfect. And we all know from, 2016 to now, that's a lot. That's a big sample size of what Dak looks like in the playoffs. We know that he gets a little stiff. Like, is he dog shit in the playoffs? Not really. He's, he plays below his standard in the regular season, but I think you can make that argument for a lot of quarterbacks. It's a bit daunting of a task. It's the playoffs. And not only is the playoffs, but it's the playoffs. I'm the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, and most of the time we're playing in Jerry World. Like, that's an immense amount of pressure. The world's watching you, and it's again, it's like Dak goes out there. He's and I'll tell you right now, he's good for an interception. He's good for one interception, no matter what. It's going to happen.
Usually 2
right?
in the playoffs. Yeah,
usually
at least
2,
recently.
but definitely 1.
The loss last year, he had 2, and then the loss the previous year in San Francisco, he also had 2. Yeah, and they were both backbreakers.
He's good. Yeah, he's good for a couple. I mean, again, he's far from perfect, but when you're when your defense is putting you in a position like that where you have to go out and score, they're not going out there and they're not taking away the ball. They're not going out there and three and outing these teams. They're not going out there and forcing fumbles. They're going out there and just letting these motherfuckers walk all over them. And then it's like, okay, well, now I have to go score. And then, then it gets a little more tense because it's like, all right, now we're down 14-0. I have to go out here and perform. So there's even less room for error. And that's, I feel like, when a lot of these picks happen, you know what I mean?
No doubt. And I had something that, and you're completely right about that. I had something that's really going to confirm this for you.
Sure.
I guess to ask you a question, obviously you know the answer, but everybody knows. What does a team offensively tend to do when it's into the second half and they have a large lead?
Run the ball.
Correct. Last year in the third quarter, coming out of the half, essentially, for like almost the entirety of the third quarter, Green Bay was up by multiple scores, and Dan Quinn brought nickel and was like, you can look at the film, and I didn't even know this until I went over this last night, and I follow a couple of film junkies who have like a really good breakdown of what I'm looking at defensively, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, why? Because Aaron Jones like continued to gash them in the second half, and he's just running like loose all over the field. But the problem is they weren't filling the box. They were coming out with five. I mean, for those who don't know, a nickel defense is 5 defensive backs that you do in third and long, that you do in obvious passing situations, that you do.
It's damn near prevent.
but I mean, like, they were running like ultra light pass coverage personnel and then running like safety deep. So you're getting situations where a 33-year-old Stephon Gilmore is out in space trying to tackle Aaron Jones. And it's like, what the hell is going on here? Like, is someone going to tell Dan Quinn that they're not going to throw the ball? And it's like, so you're right. I mean, there's an interesting tendency in a lot of these games where the defense just kind of forgets who they are. It seems like it's a really weird situation. And they do put Dak in bad situations, but there's also, it's a perfect marriage because Dak does the same thing. I mean, I mentioned the interception to Jair Alexander. You set Green Bay up at the 19-yard line. It's like, what are we supposed to do here? We're starting the drive at the 19. But again, I mean, to start the game, Jordan Love starts with a 70. I mean, the multiple drives. Jordan Love was just, we're talking 9, 10, 11, 12 play drives of just 9 minutes of game time of just gashing this defense. So it was a 1-2 punch, it's weird.
Yeah. So, and to play off that, when you look at these last 4 games that I keep referring to, the ones where they really, like, the defense really kind of showed their asses, you have an average of 67% score. There's a 67% chance of scoring when they get into the red zone. I mean, 67%. If I told you that hey, let's go to the bar this weekend, there's a 67% chance that you're going to get some. Are you going? You know what I mean? You're going every time. Are you kidding me? Sign me up. Sign me up.
No,
Sign
it's
me
no
up.
brainer.
Click, click. Next. I mean, it's ridiculous.
What does he say? 60% of the time, it works every time.
It's every time. Exactly.
They've done studies, 60% of the time, it works every time.
That doesn't make sense.
And
I'm not sure that makes any sense.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah.
No, it's ridiculous.
I mean, no, it's mind blowing. I mean, I think it's one of the more odd situations, and obviously the defense. Dan Quinn takes the head coaching job in Washington now, so it's almost impossible to know. I mean, you have Trayvon Diggs coming back from injury, and you've got Deron Bland and
who's the new DC? Do you know?
I wrote it down. Let me see here. I'm just gonna look it up.
Because that's an interesting. Because you're right, Dan Quinn. I mean, Dan Quinn left.
It's Mike Zimmer. I actually kind of like that hire.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Maybe.
I mean, he's an old school guy.
Do you like him more than Dan Quinn though?
No. But again, it's sort of like, I mean, Dan Quinn to me is like he's been like the Dak Prescott of DCs, where it's just like, okay, like this defense is cooking, man. We really need it. We're going up against a tough team today, and it's like, how about I let up 42 points? And it's like, why would you do that? Like, can you not do that? Like, can you not come out in nickel when we need to stop the run? Like, you know, I mean, it's just it's interesting, right? So.
It is.
But I mean, you know, Dan Quinn is great at what he does. He's a player guy. I mean, I'm not knocking him, but it's definitely an interesting thing. And Mike Zimmer is not so much a player guy. So it's an interesting it'll be an interesting development to see what they do. It's almost like Jerry brought in a guy of being like, all right, that's it. Like remember when Miss Trunchbull comes in instead of Miss Honey because the kids are acting up? You know what I mean?
Of course.
Yeah, it's just like no more Mr. Nice Guy. We're bringing in Mike Zimmer. He's a dick.
Straight up.
Yeah.
He gonna have Micah Parsons eating so much chocolate cake, it won't even be funny.
Yeah, exactly. I want to talk about the other half of this equation that sort of seems to end seasons for them, and that's Dak Prescott.
Sure. Yeah.
It feels sort of in a way like Dak Prescott is becoming like the Alex Rodriguez of quarterbacks, and. What I mean by that is, do you know what I mean?
I do. Yeah,
it's just,
I know
it's
exactly.
sort of an
Explain
odd.
to them
like,
if they don't.
Do you remember when Alex Rodriguez was a Yankee and you couldn't go like 5 minutes on SportsCenter without like some Alex Rodriguez debate
100%.
and segment and like, oh, Alex Rodriguez was pictured walking to his car today after an argument with Jeter, and it's like, okay, like it's becoming this thing, but those of us who watched baseball knew that Alex Rodriguez, like dollar for dollar, was like quietly the best player in baseball, maybe outside of like 100%. Barry Bonds.
Yeah, no, he was him. Yeah, he was.
He always just came up short to the point where like Yankee Stadium booed him at the end. Like he almost couldn't play. They had to get him out.
2009 really bailed his legacy out. That 2009 run really saved his legacy because he was obviously brought in like. What was that, like 04 or something, 05, to really change that franchise? And it was,
I think it was 05, 06, 05.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It was,
and it was the deal of all deals. If you were, I mean, we were little kids at the time, but it was, if you weren't around for that, it was like, holy crap, the Yankees got A-Rod.
The Yanks reintroducing their new acquisition to the public at a news conference today. Manager Joe Torre and team captain Derek Jeter on hand to welcome the man many consider to be the best baseball player there is.
Yankees stole him in the final hour from the Red Sox. It was honestly super iconic.
It felt like every October he pooped his pants, but the problem with A-Rod is that you never felt like as a fan you could evaluate him because your brain was always filled with mush, right? It's sort of like when you go to the grocery store and you're like, I wonder what brand I want. And you like gravitate towards a brand because you're being bombarded by commercials. Like this brand is just outselling the other brand, it's outspending in advertising. So you're almost like under mind control. You know, I've touched on this a lot, but part of our mission statement with this channel and you know, with this you know, idea that we've created of doing this stuff is that we want to be kind of like an opposite voice for these, you know, constant ESPN FS1 takes, right? And we're not really
anti-media.
Yeah, we're not really, you know, not in the Draymond way of being like, we need a new media and then say something safe. Like, you know how Draymond does that, where he's like, oh, I hate Skip Bayless.
All NBA defensive first team. Yeah, Skip. We don't respect you. You need more people. It's a wrap. Peace.
It's like, yeah, it's not a take, dude. Like everybody, Charles said that
Everybody
15 years ago.
Yeah,
it's just like, that's so safe. But I mean in a real way where you almost unpack these ideas and you try to like, you know, take the red pill, so to speak, in the Matrix sense, where it's like, are you willing to actually look at these things? And I think part of the problem I've had, and I think part of the problem we've all collectively had and we're unaware of, is that every single time the Cowboys play a game, particularly when they lose, you can't watch any sports show for that entire week without getting 2 segments an hour on, you know, it's every single time the Cowboys lose, you turn on the TV and it's, you know, since 2016 up until now, it's Shannon and Skip being like, I say Dak Prescott's a choker. He's like, Skip, he's not a choker. Skip, come on. He's not a choker. He's bad at football, Skip. He's bad. He's not a good quarterback, Skip. Come on.
Turnovers is not Dak's DNA.
Well, guess what? And Dak, you are the father of those turnovers.
Really?
Yeah, you are the father of those 2 interceptions.
Yeah.
And those 7 straight games with at least 1 interception in 3 of those games.
And those 15 interceptions that led the league this year.
And it's just like the same thing.
Stephen A. putting on the big 10-gallon hat with the cigar, and
Shannon bringing the backwoods out and being like, the Dallas Cowboys smoking on backwoods, Skip. They done. They cooked, you know. And it's like every time it's always this, and it's like, you know, it's the same thing. And we don't get to really watch this guy in the way that we watch any other player. So what's really interesting is he's 2-5 in the postseason, and we all kind of know that he's not good in the postseason. One of the most recent, you know, wins comes against what's the movie Wolf of Wall Street, where Leonardo DiCaprio's on the Quaaludes and he's like dragging his body, like that was Tom Brady with the Bucks the last year, right? It was just like they were a losing record, and it's like it's Tom Brady bad. Like, you know, like on Quaaludes, like dragging himself, like just divorced, like into the Ferrari to like retire again, right? So they beat that team, and I almost don't even count that because that team wasn't even a playoff team. Let's be honest. They won because the division was like so bum. And then before that, it's a 2018 win. It's the 2018 season against Seattle where you squeaked one out and then you lost in the next round. But other than that, it's mostly first-round losses. The thing about where we are now with Dak is he signed a 4-year deal in 2021. This is the last year of that deal, and this year – that deal has a $59 million cap hit, which accounts for 24% of Dallas's salary cap. It's a weird place to be because once again, we kind of find ourselves on a, and correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't it almost feel like this year Dak is on a, if Jerry doesn't give Dak the money before the season starts, which I think he might not, I think CD will get paid and I think they might play it out with Dak. Doesn't it feel like almost once again Dak is on a prove-it deal?
Yes, 100%. 100% he is. I think him and McCarthy are both on prove-it deals.
Well, McCarthy's also in the last year of his contract, and I think a lot of us felt like McCarthy was going to get fired after what he put on tape last year, but he didn't. And so it feels like Jerry's almost walking these two guys out on the plank and going, okay, let's see it. And what's really interesting is when we go over Dak's season last year, it feels like there is in no realm, like when you really look at what he did, in no way, shape, or form should this guy be on a prove-it deal. He finished third in the MVP race behind only Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. He finished first in completion percentage in the entire National Football League. He finished first in touchdown passes in the entire National Football League. He finished third in passing yards last year in the entire National Football League. He threw the second fewest interceptions of the top 10 passers behind only C.J. Stroud, and he had 6 more touchdowns than C.J. Stroud did. And that was a big thing coming off of the Kellen Moore firing, right? They fired Kellen Moore, and if you remember, they talked to Mike McCarthy in the preseason last year, and he had a lot of quotes saying, like, we're going to run the damn football, you know, more on that later. And, you know, Dak, we're trying to lower Dak's turnovers. You know, the interceptions were a problem. And that's why they moved on from Kellen Moore, right? Because he was creating an offense where Dak was throwing too many picks. Dak had an MVP caliber season last year.
100%.
And because of what happened in the playoffs and because of what seems to always happen in the playoffs and because I gave you those 4 losses, all the major games where it felt like they really needed it, he lost those games. Yeah. We're once again going into this season where, depending on who you ask, Dak Prescott isn't in the top 10, and there's no other quarterback in the league that finished third in MVP voting and top 3 in all the major passing stats that we don't consider to be a top 5 guy. And we don't, because of this man's New York Yankees Alex Rodriguez-ness of sort of like,
that's real.
It's the Alex Rodriguez of it all, where it's like, it's twofold. I think where I'll defend Dak is I don't think that we've ever fairly evaluated him because of these TV shows, because the Cowboys lose and we want to see what happens. So we turn on Shannon and Skip, or we turn on, Rob Parker, whoever it's been over the years, right? We turn on, pardon the interruption. We turn on Undisputed, whatever thing it is. And it's just a bunch of guys being like, Dak's a fraud, in hacky TV segments, right?
He deserves all the money he can get. You know what they said? No way, no how. Dak Prescott is a fraud.
I think the other end of it, though, to me, the theme of this team and the theme of this quarterback and the theme of this head coach and the theme of this owner, whatever, going back 30 years up until now of the past few seasons with the 12 wins in a row, Dak Prescott MVP season, CeeDee Lamb wide receiver 1, dominant defensive performances.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do when really good's not good enough?
It's an impossible situation. It's an impossible situation because you know that. Okay, so let's play hypothetical. Dak goes out there, does kind of what he did this year, right? Let's even go as far as saying he goes in the playoffs and has another one of those games, right? And Jerry says, "I'm done with you. I'm walking. I'm not re-signing you." Okay, well, I can think of 3 teams that would go give him a bag right now. You know what I mean? A bag. Vegas would give him $300 million. The New York Giants would give him $300 million. I mean, they just would. You know what I mean? So
New Orleans Saints probably would too.
I mean, there's the realistic answers. There's probably 15 teams that would go out and at least make a call. So yeah, the Rams. The Rams aren't calling. Yeah, the Rams aren't calling when Stafford's older. You know what I mean? You know who's not calling? The Chiefs, the Ravens, the Bills, the Bengals. Maybe, I don't know. Dak's very rarely injured. You know what I mean? But no, yeah. I mean, sure.
Yeah.
But
he'd be an upgrade. He'd be an upgrade objectively over about 20 quarterbacks.
Teams, yeah.
Yep.
100%. Steelers aren't calling. Steelers might give him $400 million.
Shut up and take my money.
like it's. He's a good quarterback. He's a very, very, very good quarterback. But he's kind of got that Kirk Cousins effect where when it matters most, he leaves a lot to be desired. So do you, being Jerry Jones and knowing your age and knowing the realistics of you might not be around too much longer, are you willing to burn it all down and rebuild it up and go after that, prized Super Bowl before your untimely death? I mean, that's really kind of how you have to start thinking. It's very, since we're doing the baseball analogies, it's very Mike Ilitch towards the end of his life with the Tigers and just like he's putting all this money around. He's like, I'm bringing in Prince Fielder. I'm bringing in David Price. I want that series before I go. And he never got it, right? Like he passed away and we never won the World Series. And I feel like there's part of that's got to be swirling around for Jerry's mind. Like, I have to get this before I go. It's been 30 years. I've been, I've maintained this marketing giant that is my team. I'm still the most popular franchise in the NFL, but there's no way to him it's not fucking embarrassing knowing that he has become more of a, the 90s days, those are long gone, man. We're not talking about the Chicago Bulls the way we did, like that's the same era. You know what I mean? Like they haven't even been close.
But the thing is, they've been good every year.
They've been great
year over year. So like,
yeah,
it's such a mind-boggling situation.
It's an impossible
situation.
Unique.
It's so unique.
Yeah, it's an impossible situation.
And I think that was almost like a theme that it'd probably be the title of the video. It was like a theme that we kept kind of running into with this defense, with Dak, with everything, with the O-line they had for years that now they're having to rebuild. It's like, what do you do when really, really good is not good enough? Because I think the answer is, I think I don't know what Dak has to do to get re-signed, but again, I don't think there's a better quarterback that you guys are going to get.
No, I mean your options are basically to call Buffalo and say you can have Dak Prescott in the next 10 years of our first round draft picks, and they would still probably hang up the phone on you and tell you to fuck off. And the same goes for Kansas City.
The only quarterbacks in this entire league that are better than Dak Prescott are unattainable.
Yeah.
They're generational.
100%.
So
100%. That's what I mean. There's only a handful of phone calls that you could make, and pretty much everybody's gonna just laugh at you and hang the phone up. I mean, you could call Tom Brady and fucking hope. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the position you're in. It's like, do you mortgage your future and try to upgrade with one of these handful of quarterbacks, which you're probably not going to be able to do? Do you do you try to bring a 46-year-old Tom Brady out of retirement, or do you completely start over? You know what I mean? Like those are your options.
You're also leaving another person out of this equation that I think, this guy right here, that is he's going to be asking for a lot of money, but besides the money that he's asking for, he's going to want to know who the quarterback's going to be, and he's going to want the quarterback to be Dak Prescott. We touched on this.
Wouldn't you?
100%, but we touched on this during our notes, and it's what partially makes me feel like Mike McCarthy may get fired if they choke this year. I think that's pretty likely. But I do believe that Dak will be back, and I believe that CeeDee will be paid, because at the end of the day, 3 straight years of 12 wins is 3 straight years of 12 wins, and when business is booming like this, what are you guys going to do? And unfortunately, as Cowboys fans, whether you like it or not, you better not sell those Dak jerseys. You're going to need them next year, because we were talking about this, and obviously, like me being, a massive fan of CeeDee Lamb and being, him kind of being, my favorite player in the NFL, especially as a receiver, I feel like right now with this coach, with this team, this system, and this quarterback, for my money, he is the best wide receiver in football. I don't think 1-to-1 he's better than Justin Jefferson, but I like his situation better than Jefferson's situation with a rookie quarterback in Minnesota or Sam Darnold, whichever
100%.
one. I don't think that he is necessarily better than Tyreek Hill, but Tyreek Hill's 30 now, and I don't trust Tua's health. Tua's one hit away from being done. We all saw Tua almost get paralyzed on the football field, and I don't think that Tua is better than Dak. I don't think that he's in the same class as Dak, to be honest. So for my money, with my quarterback, with my coach, with my scheme, with my situation, CeeDee Lamb is the best wide receiver in football right now. And because of that, that is part of it. If they're going to sign a deal like that for a wide receiver and give this guy the kind of money that Justin Jefferson got, anywhere close to them or more, God forbid, more money than Justin Jefferson got, I'm going to need to make sure that my quarterback, who's been feeding me all-pro numbers, is going to be here too. Because remember, Justin Jefferson didn't want them to move on from Kirk in Minnesota, and they did, and that was a huge reason why these contract negotiations stalled all offseason. So
100%.
It's something to keep an eye on. Unfortunately, Dak keeps the wheel greased, and I think when you're a franchise that's so important, I don't believe that you guys can really risk blowing it up and moving on and taking a dice roll on the quarterback unless you're doing a Herschel Walker deal for Pat Mahomes that we don't know about, in which case, go for it. But other than that, dude, I mean, I think you guys are stuck.
No, 100%. And you touched on something. You touched on something earlier, like at the very beginning of this video, that I kind of want to deep dive a little bit further, which was that, like, you'd said something about, like, when they play, I don't know what the exact word was, but you said something about, like, basically when they play like better teams, they aren't nearly as good. I actually have that. I actually like fully have that here laid out from last year. So when you include the Packer game against playoff teams, the Cowboys were 3-5. His completion percentage was 66.2. He had 17 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. and his passer rating was a 95.9, where against non-playoff teams, he was 9-1, completion percentage of 72%. He had 19 touchdowns. He only had 1 interception, which is, I mean, that's a vast difference. And his passer rating was 116. So like, yeah, he kind of beats the shit out of like mid to shitty teams, but he has a real, I'd say, like, you know, obviously he's 3-5, so he's capable of beating the playoff teams. It's just like the interception discrepancy between the two is really crazy to me. I mean, you're talking about literally like 99% of your interceptions were all against playoff teams, and then you also, you know, I guess, yeah, you got to add the two pick sixes during the Packer game. And I guess I don't know if are they included in that 8, or was that regular season? I don't know. I guess I don't know.
Last regular season, yeah, I have it in front of me. He only threw 9 interceptions all season.
Okay, so that's not counting the Packer game. So yeah, I mean, you got 8, 9, 10. You got 10 of them against playoff teams. That's
yeah.
Yikes. You know what I mean? Like, that's not good.
And all the losses are against playoff teams, with the exception of a little fluky, you know, week 3 loss at Arizona, which, you know, was just an example of your run defense getting destroyed. One thing involving Jerry in this front office that I really want to touch on before we kind of wrap up the conversation on this team. And I know we didn't talk about the defense at length, but, you know, honestly, you've got Micah, you've got 2, you know, Pro Bowl corners. Like, I think the defense is going to be good. It's just a matter of, can you be good at the right time?
Yep. Stop creeping out the back door.
Yeah, exactly. You know? We're watching you this year, Micah.
Yeah,
like, get less podcasting, more get into the, you know, start flipping them tires, big man. You want that money? Get out there and make a sack in a playoff game one time, please.
Period.
I want to talk about a unit that's very different from the defense that I think is actually not good, and that's the running back room.
It's a nightmare situation over there.
It is. I first want to touch on last season, because I think there is this idea. There's, depending on who you ask, Tony Pollard was good or he wasn't. I'm of the camp that he was not good. You got to think of it like this. The big stat that they use to trot out to kind of justify Tony Pollard having a good season is the elusive 1,000-yard rushing season.
Naturally, they love that one.
To have a 1,000-yard rushing season, you need to average like 60 yards a game. It's really not, and he ended up having like just 1,000 yards, like 1,003 or 1,004. I don't have it exactly in front of me, but it's like he was 2 yards over 1,000. It was fool's gold. So Pollard hurt his ankle in a pretty gruesome injury in the divisional game against San Francisco in 22. He comes back this year. And, you know, I touched on it earlier, but Mike McCarthy has got this Texas Coast offense that he's running. It's like this kind of dink and dunk run efficiency offense. And he says, you know, we want to run the damn ball. We're making Tony a feature. We're making Tony a one, you know, and everybody gets excited about Tony because he's, you know, Tony Pollard has showed a lot of flashes, you know, as that 2 running back. You know, we touched on this with Chicago and DeAndre Swift, but he is DeAndre Swift. He's Jaylen Warren. He's one of these guys that you really want on your team as another running back to make plays.
Yeah.
He is not a workhorse running back.
He's not. No,
and,
he's not.
You know, he finished 12th in the NFL in rushing yards last year, but that's actually not very good when you consider the fact that he finished 7th in total carries. They committed to him last year in the running game.
They did, for sure.
He was incredibly inefficient. They could never get the running game going. And if you watched the games versus just looked at the season-ending box score, you know, Cowboys fans, you guys know this guy stunk it up last year. He just wasn't that good as a number one running back.
I know. I committed to him in fantasy. Shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, that was a mistake. A lot of people did that. You weren't alone. I mean, so many people got cooked with the Pollard draft pick in fantasy. But the interesting thing about him is, you know, we were going over the games, right? One game last season, one singular game, he had over 100 rushing yards, one. And that was against Arizona in week 3, who, and, you know, if those of you who don't know, Arizona Cardinals had like the worst, one of the bottom 3, if not the bottom of the run defense last season. They couldn't stop the run. They couldn't stop you and me in the run game last year. And so his only 100-yard rushing game came against Arizona last year. He finished with only 6 rushing touchdowns, with this, like, you know, pretty low-level stuff for a starting running back that finished 7th in total carries, especially in an offense like this that lived in the red zone. And actually, the first half of the season, their main problem with their offense was red zone struggles, and it had a huge part to do with the fact that Tony was just not punching the ball in, like, period. They move on from him. They don't, you know, he was owed a new contract. They don't re-sign him. You could kind of see the forest through the trees on this, that was happening. He goes to Tennessee. I honestly like the fit in Tennessee better. But it leaves Dallas in this precarious situation of, I think fans kind of went, okay, we're not bringing Pollard back. We have this good offense. Dak needs a run game, especially in these big games. He needs a run game. Tony didn't really deliver that last year. Okay, I guess I'm fine that he's gone. Mm-hmm. Who we getting? Right? And the news comes out. Philadelphia signs Saquon Barkley to a 3-year deal. And you go, Philadelphia got Saquon Barkley. And the news comes out that the Green Bay Packers signed Josh Jacobs, you know, to a deal, right? And so now you've got Philadelphia, who's your in-division rival. You got the team that kicked your ass last year in the playoffs, who's going to be a contender again this year, got Josh Jacobs. Both of those players would have been great fits in Dallas. You know, Joe Mixon, who's a tier below those guys and is, you know, kind of past his prime, but a veteran nonetheless and could be a 3-down back for you, goes and signs with Houston. And, you know, DeAndre Swift, who could be at least a piece, if not, you know, a featured back for you guys, signs with the Bears. And Derrick Henry goes and signs with the Ravens. And what's really interesting about Derrick Henry is he did an interview not too long after free agency saying, Dallas was my first choice. You know, it was a sad music video. There was rain coming outside. I was sitting by my fireplace by the rotary phone waiting for it to ring. Waiting to get on the phone and hear Jerry's sweet Southern voice tell me that I'm a Dallas Cowboy, and nobody reached out. I wanted to sign with the Cowboys. And to me, that's the one piece of this that I look at and I go, I don't understand why you would bring back the corpse of Zeke Elliott as the featured running back of this offense.
Makes
and
no
not
sense.
One of the guys I just named. And we all know that we're in a situation where running back market is what it is. It's dried up. You know, it's the pendulum swung so far. They could have restructured one contract and brought one of those guys in.
Jones. They could have gotten
Aaron Jones with Minnesota, right? I mean, you just watched the tape of what he did to your defense. You didn't give his agent a call and go, hey, what are we looking at? I mean, Minnesota got him for nothing.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And the problem I have with that too is, like, you know, I think a lot of people have been very down on their off season and very down on their draft. But I think if you bring in even an Aaron Jones, even a Joe Mixon, so, you know, somebody like we said, I mean, you just drafted who is it? Tyler Guyton, was that their
Tyler Guyton
pick?
in the first?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So you just brought in a first-round left tackle. You draft Cooper Beebe in the 3rd. So now you have your center. Your center and your left tackle were kind of your iffy injury spots on a great offensive line that has been great forever, who is a great coach. And it's like, okay, so now you've kind of filled those two pieces. Now you can bring a maybe over-the-hill Aaron Jones in, but he's still going to produce. You can bring a maybe over-the-hill Joe Mixon in, he's still going to produce. You can bring a maybe over-the-hill Derrick Henry in, he's still going to produce. But, I mean, Zeke Elliott is at the bottom of the hill. It's over. Like, what do we expect from him? What do we expect from Zeke Elliott this year? Does he get 700 yards? I mean, that's honest.
I mean, probably
Maybe.
Inefficiently. I mean, I bet you he probably gets, you know, 1,000 yards of total offense, just from pass catching and, you know, just getting volume. But, like, why take a situation that wasn't good with Tony Pollard? And it wasn't good, but it wasn't bad. I just broke it down for you. It was a mediocre running game on a very good offense, right? And that's a situation where you go, okay, this offense has been humming. CeeDee Lamb just finished wide receiver 1. Dak Prescott was 3rd in MVP voting. We won 12 games. One of the major differences was our run game. We got to upgrade it. And instead of upgrading it, you downgraded it. It's like
doesn't make any sense.
I don't understand that. I don't understand that particular thing.
Nobody
so
in the draft. Nobody, you know, you didn't take Blake Corum. He was just chilling there. You know what I mean? Like
no Trey Benson. No Braylon Allen. None of these guys, which all could have worked out as probably day one starters for you in this offense.
100%.
So on that note, let's kind of just give our conclusions here. Let's give a bold prediction and let's give a record. What do you think they do this year? Do you like them? Do you not like them? You know?
Yeah, I like them. I can't pick you to win the division again because for whatever reason your division is just like weird and nobody ever wins it twice in a row. So I'd probably say second in the division. There's got to be a bit of a step back. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure and like as we literally just touched on that you don't have a run game. Dak is tremendously better when he has a run game. So yeah, I mean they're still fucking good at 10 wins, 11 wins, you know, pretty comfortably, I think. I'd be shocked if it was under 10 wins. I think the ceiling is probably 11 wins. I don't think you're going to see 12 wins again. But I also think the floor is like 9 wins. You're right in that area. I think it would have to take a Dak Prescott injury to not be within that small range, in my opinion. You're still a playoff team, but I mean, I don't know. A bold prediction. I could see, depending on how your season plays out. I could potentially see like a Mike McCarthy getting fired halfway through the season type deal.
That would be crazy.
You know, it would be, but it would, you know, there is this bubble has to burst at some point.
Yep.
And it wouldn't shock me if that's kind of the first domino to fall.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he'll be the fall guy before Dak is.
Yeah, I think he will be the fall guy. He'll be the copium that he'll be the guy that you know, Jerry walks out on the plank to feed the sharks that are Cowboys fans, and that'll be their little chum that they kind of swim off and go, okay, fine, you fired Mike, thanks, I guess.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the fact that you haven't made one run during this Dak era, you know, of at least getting to a Super Bowl, I think has really left everybody open and vulnerable to be in a position of losing their jobs.
Get to an NFC championship.
Haven't gotten to an NFC championship, right? Yeah.
The Lions got there. The Detroit Lions, bro. The laughing stock of the NFL got there.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal. I mean, it's you know, when it comes to playoff success, you guys are nowhere to be found. I mean, I'm with you. I think 11 games feels right. They've won 12 3 years in a row, and I don't think they got better this offseason. So I'll have them finishing second in the division. I think they will be a playoff team. I think my bold prediction would be that this team makes some type of running back trade with a Zeke Elliott injury or a lack of production. I think they're going to be in that position again where they're winning games, and I think they should have signed somebody. They didn't. I think it'll become glaringly obvious, and I think that they will make a trade that they didn't have to make. You could have signed one of these really good running backs for like, you know what I'm saying? But they're going to do something stupid and give up a second or a first rounder for some like stud running back. And it's like,
who is the running back and why is it Alvin Kamara?
Fully. No, that's who I think it is.
That's who it is.
Yeah. So maybe my bold prediction is there's an Alvin Kamara trade mid-season.
Yeah.
And it's for some reason like a second round pick for a guy that you could have just signed Josh Jacobs, who's better and younger for like, I mean, it's just but I think that's going to happen. I'm with you. So that'll be my bold prediction that Alvin Kamara they trade for Alvin Kamara, which is wild, right? Like, but you know, I mean, it's at that point where, look, man, we said it. It's do or die in Dallas. This is there has to be a run somewhere in here for you guys to justify these wins and these empty calories and these these CD breaks Michael Irvin's record. Dak's in the MVP race. You won 12 games. You win the division.
Yeah. Micah Parsons, the best. He's gonna be defensive player of the year.
Yeah, he's the new.
At some point, it's got to give, man.
JJ Watt, but better. And it's like, at what point? At what point do we put a run on tape? In my lifetime, it's been my whole life that I've never gotten to see this team make a run. Really, it's like my dad's old VHS tapes. I had to watch Emmett and Troy. It's like, I mean, I think that you and I are both on the same page with that. That it's do or die in Dallas, and I just don't know if I see it this year. I thought last year was the year. I liked you the year before. I've liked you every year. I buy in every year because I like this team and I believe in these players. But fool me once, can't get fooled again.
No, I'm with you.
I'm done getting fooled. So,
period.
Cowboys fans, thanks for watching. Fans, thanks for watching. Guys, please like, comment, and subscribe. We appreciate it so much that you guys are tuning in if you're still watching this far. And yeah, man, good luck to Cowboys fans. And Andy, thank you for coming, brother.
Rest in peace, L.A. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Larry Allen, a GOAT.
Yes, sir. All-timer. All right, see you.
Peace.